Hey everyone, those of you wanting to see how I was doing, I'm still here. I'm still okay, and I am now drinking heavily. Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer, Verge, recorder of videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Monday edition of Bye Bye. We'll keep you behind the scenes DM only live stream crafting Icewind Dale, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Rime of the Frostmaiden. Occasionally, watch my beloved alma mater get absolutely spanked in front of everyone. Oh, you hate to see it. Georgia's a damn good football team. If you're playing characters for Robin, Fully Assessment, or Thimbleweed, I can't even talk. Bray, Celeste, Edmund, or Thimbleweed. This is not meant for you, but for the rest of you. Welcome. We can commiserate together. Unless you're a Georgia fan, in which case, GG. For the rest of you, welcome. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. Watch all of our D&D sessions and reviews here on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Rogue Watson and join our official Discord server with invite link into the description below. If you would like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/Rogue Watson. For our campaign, we use Roll20, and for streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. At least we got to see a new Ant-Man trailer, although frankly, I'm kind of annoyed that I saw that one because it showed like a lot of Kang and a lot of the story, and I feel like too many trailers just show too much of things. That was something I enjoyed about Avatar, is I really didn't know much about the movie going into it in terms of the story and all the stuff we'd see. And now I feel like I've seen too much Ant-Man because of that one trailer. But it was a cool trailer. I'm excited about it. There's a minute left. Is Georgia going to score again? Are they ever going to actually take a knee? Just make it stop, please. Make it stop. I hate this. I hate this so much. I don't think there's anything left for me to talk about Caves of Hunger. I feel like I'm in a weird case where I'm ahead of the players, and I think I'm going to be ahead of them for a long time because this is going to take them a while to get through, and I don't need to spend forever planning over and over on the same stuff. I'm just going to end up second guessing a lot of things. I mean, we didn't even finish the fight we started on Friday, which is a little worrisome. Now I'm wondering if I need to just be cutting stuff just for pacing issues, in terms of like, just cut the drought completely. Don't even worry about that. And, still include, I mean, we've already got the vampire stuff we have to deal with, so we can still deal with that up there. But then, gosh, by then we still have so much content down here. I mean, the Remorize is going to be easy a whole session. This right side is a whole session. I think we could still have 4 more weeks in the Caves of Hunger. But I can't just keep talking about everything. There they go. Now the clock's ticking. All right, GG, Georgia. Holy crap. What a disaster. We're going to go and turn that game off. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do the responsible thing and turn it off. Hit off. Turn off. That's a curse. Okay, there we go. And I think we're going to start talking about Ithrin. I think we need to jump in and talk about Chapter 7, right? Which is the Doom of Ithrin. I think we need to start covering this. Because, as with most of these places, actually with this one I haven't had to change too much. Caves of Hunger, I've been pretty impressed. I haven't been massively altering it like I have the last couple areas. Like I have with Grimskala, and Revel's End, and the Lost Spire, Netheril, like all of those I had to kind of drastically change from the original concept. And this dungeon, actually not so much. It's just scales pretty well, I guess. I've only had to make a few changes here and there. By the way, I originally was going to delay the stream until 10, just depending how the game played out. But because I was in such a foul mood, I went ahead and started streaming it now. So for some of you probably think I'm late. For the rest of you probably think I'm early. My apologies. The answer is I am both. The alpha and the omega. So Doom of Ithrin, I've mentioned before. I'm going to use Dan Kahn's Expanded Towers of Ithrin, which is a fantastic adventure bundle that includes new content for every single tower. So the main thing is when they get to Ithrin, the goal is very similar to Omu, where you have to visit, instead of shrines, you visit these towers, and instead of tablets, to get to the final area, you just learn like a sentence of the Rite of the Octad. Is this where it tells it? No, Doom of Ithrin. Running Chapter 7? Somewhere in here it talks about that. All of Ithrin, maybe not. Okay, maybe it's in Necropolis of Ithrin. Random encounters, magical effects, arcane blight, which is crazy. We kind of talked about a little bit. Oh, here we go. Right of the arcane octad. Can you say octadad? Octad. Pass through the force field that surrounds the Spire of Erolithus and the Ithrin Mythalar. So importantly, and I'm kind of painting this as like this is it's a lost city, but it's also the Mythalar is like a magical nuclear device that has suddenly reactivated, but it's sputtering because it's been mostly drained, and it's a very dangerous it's a nuclear reactor that could blow at any minute, basically. And in fact, while it's doing that, it's opening rips and tears into space-time and having, nasty Fall Realm creatures come out. Because I need to scale things up, because the players will be level 13 by the time they make it here, and I'll probably level them up again, because I believe in the adventure summary, because originally it says they're 9th level when they arrive, and they gain a level after overcoming the challenges of all 8 towers, and then before they reach the final area. Those weird. Gain a level after overcoming the challenges of all 8 towers of magic, and gain a level when they reach Erolithus' study. Those things basically happen at the same time. Gain a level if they accomplish something extraordinary, such as basically winning the game. So they'll be 13, or 12 now. They'll be 13 going into this dungeon, and I'll probably level them up to 14 by the time they get to the very last area, which I will also be redoing to the point where I'm not even sure I'm going to use the original Erolithus Spire dungeon itself. But each tower, they need to learn this one sentence, and then it's basically just a giant riddle, and that explains how you get to the beginning area. I need to refamiliarize myself with both how this chapter works, as well as the adventure bundle, although ironically I'm doing the Roll20 conversion of the adventure bundle right now, so that's helping me refamiliarize myself with it now. Because as written, the towers are really lame. There's just not much going on there that is even hardly worth discussing, and because I'm not using them, I'm not sure it even is worth discussing, frankly. Let's see. Doom trappers are pretty cool. Tappers, not trappers. Ice causeways, when they get there, it's about a mile between the Caves of Hunger and the Necropolis itself. I've talked about how tiny this is. That doesn't even seem right. The scale just seems way off. The fact that this whole thing is 1,500 feet is teeny, teeny, tiny. It needs to be at least like twice or 3 times as large. But I meant to go back and look at Omu and see how far across that one, because surely it was larger. Hey Nate, how are you doing? Who cares? What a cautious rate of 200 feet every 5 minutes. That is a cautious rate. I'm trying to figure out where they learn the fact that they need to get all these different lines, because crucially what you need, what Omu had, I think, is that you got Orvex was a crucial NPC that I gave them early, and I believe he was somebody who could importantly explain like what was going on in here and what they need to have. And at some point they literally got a vision from the villain in Omu, explaining like, hey, you've got your halves of the tablets, we've got ours, you get these remaining ones, and blah blah. Like the players got more direction, which I think my party generally appreciates compared to these kind of open-ended like, hey, just explore the city. And that helps me as a DM, obviously, with prep work, because then I can determine where to focus my energy and make sure to have some good scripted content versus scrambling. I think the Causeway has a 21-foot tall tomb tapper that was killed by drowned Vaders less than a 10-day ago. The Drow killed a tomb tapper? That's actually pretty impressive. These things are gnarly. CR10, 200 hit points. Multi-attack with a giant sledgehammer that it can throw. Pretty awesome. Just a brute, though. Not really anything too crazy. I thought it had magic resist. Sense magic. Okay, it just senses, I guess. Tunnel through walls. Scarier looking than it is, I guess. It has some like creepy abilities, but it's just kind of a big, bulky dude with a hammer. Very Resident Evil. This feels like a very Resident Evil monster. It looks scary, but ultimately just kind of wielding a weapon. Where do they learn about that? They do look cool. 2 is the Wizard Spires. These are all these things on the edge, which one of them became the Lost Spire of Netheril. 3% chance per tower, D3 plus 1 gargoyles cling to the outside of it. I feel like having gargoyles attack the party is kind of a waste of time here. Chain Lightning Stadium is pretty fun, and there's a whole little game they can trigger. No electricity enclose the entire stadium, nothing physically passed through the barrier, which is immune to all damage and can't be dispelled by dispel magic. Barrier also extends to the ethereal plane. Chain Lightning gets to play a little. That's fun. That's a really fun thing. It's one of the first things the party gets to do, also. And all these Galvan mages get to like spawn in. Chain Lightning sidebar. I like that a lot. I think that's going to be a blast. Iron Ball magically appears in a random location. Equidistant from the 2 teams. Step 1, every player makes an athletics check. The individual with the highest roll gets the ball, and that person's team is on offense. Resolve a tie with an athletics contest. Every player makes an athletics check. The team on offense gets more successes than the team on defense. One player on offense can try either to hurl the ball between the metal tines of an electrified mast, hoping to impart an electrical charge on the ball, or make a ranged weapon attack and ball against a player on defense. So it's dodgeball and football, sort of? Stuck by the ball is eliminated. If the ball is electrically charged when it hits, deals additional 1d6 lightning damage to the eliminated player. Okay, so you can electrically charge it to like 2 people. I feel like there's a more interesting way to do this, and yet I don't want to make it too overly complicated, but man, such potential, and to have it turn into like, hey, make this check, make that check. Like it's a problem with a lot of the mini games in these 5e campaigns. Like they have good ideas, but then when you dive into the mechanics of it, come away really disappointed. I haven't seen that movie in forever. Dodgeball. I feel like I need to work on this to make it a little more interesting, because that's such a neat idea to step into the arena and have it actually come alive with like, you know, simulated hologram, not even hologram, I guess they literally spawns these Galvan Magen summoned to the field. And there's a trophy to get, which is, what is the trophy? Treasure is a Stone of Good Luck. I don't know if that's good enough for this late in the game. Requires attunement to get +1 ability checks and saving throws. That's probably not worth an attunement slot at level freaking 13, right? But whatever. It's the fun we had along the way also, but I might need to scale it up. I mean, the easiest way to scale it up would be, hey, it's a +2 or something. That might be more worthy. That's a cool idea. I need to make it more interesting. At least come up with different things the players can do on their turn. It's not just athletics check. I mean, they're going to want to, like, you know, do some cool athletic moves. I guess they all involve athletics. But what about cast, you know, you could cast spells. Or no, you can't. Is there a rule against just the barrier is dispel magic? I wonder, I mean, it's an ancient game with a bunch of spellcasters. Would they have anti-magic fields, or would they expect spells to be cast? Kind of tricky. And we get to the towers. I almost feel like I should skip over the towers, or else just start adding them in there. That's part of the work I can be doing. I think Tower of Abjuration is actually going to be very similar to the one I will end up using. Yeah, we can just start making them. It's fine. Got tower. We want gridless. Be adjusted. 11 by 17. You've set dimensions. Can I know what to do by squares? It doesn't seem right. Oh, it is slightly off, isn't it? That's weird. All right. Let's change this. By 7, that doesn't actually seem right. Is it 11 by 17? Yeah. Okay. Oh, it's because I'm zoomed out. That's why. I was like, that seems so small. It's because I'm at 60%. There we go. That makes more sense. Okay. There's our... I close this. They also come with maps, which is very handy. I will provide a link to the Ithran Expanded Towers of Magic. Link for this bad boy. Absolutely worth checking out. I will be singing its praises for weeks now. That link right there that I've shared in the chat is what I recommend. I need to change this page size too. Well, actually, came in the last few weeks. I've had a surgery today and it's been a great distraction for me on the lead up to it. Well, Sam, thank you very much. I hope your surgery went well. Appreciate the kind words. Glad you could catch me live. Our abjuration. And it's actually going to be very similar. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had the surgery today. You're going to surgery. Okay. Well, yes. Good luck on the surgery. My mom had to get surgery on her ankle, and it was a weird, like, late afternoon, because usually they try to do surgeries, pretty early in the day, in the morning, and it was so late in like the afternoon. It was like 4 or 5 o'clock, and when they're like, you can't eat after, like, it's like gremlin rules, right? You can't eat after midnight. So she was so crabby. I was like, that would kill me. Like, no coffee, like nothing but water for like hours and hours and hours. Like, no, I couldn't do it. Oh man. Yeah, she tried doing the physical therapy thing, and everybody and her were just like, this is like, you just need to get the surgery, like it's gonna be better. And I'll be honest, it hasn't been a quick fix or anything. But I think she has been improving, but it's been a slow, steady journey, versus a sprint, I guess. Marathon versus sprint. I shouldn't be using running analogies for for ankle surgery, but that sucks, man. Just going through just constant pain with that shit, like, what a pain in the ass. So my heart goes out to you. I hope you do feel better, because that sucks. Tower of Abjuration. This one is very similar to the book. I believe they show up, which I could use my DM's Guild format. I hate to switch between Roll20 and the thing, because unfortunately I'm not going to have it copied over in Roll20. I'm just going to be using the PDFs. You're not necessarily going to have the written stuff that I'm looking at, but at least in this case, it's very similar. In fact, I don't even see how this one necessarily is different on the surface. This is probably the least one that is an issue. The wizard's mauled body lies in the chamber. 6 demos, Imagine, guard the anvil. That right there I can change because it's yeah, they're only CR2s, and we've got multiple Magens, so we should be able to plug more in there. Yeah, she's older. Both my folks actually had and she had it right at the end of the year, like right before I'm trying to think. I think it was before Thanksgiving she had it, to where we were thinking like we weren't sure if she was going to come out. And then my dad, earlier that year, so we're coming up on a year now, actually had like quadruple bypass open heart surgery, which was fucking crazy. And I visited him afterwards. It was like a month after, and he showed me the scar. Like he lifted his shirt up, and man, it was gnarly. Like holy shit. I was like, damn. I wasn't even trying to hide it. I was like, dude, that is crazy. You look like just an undead stitched together. Like it was fucked up. But I mean, that was, it was very raw. It had that, nasty looking, just, colorations and everything was just horrible. But he's fucking alive. So I think anybody would absolutely take that trade. And, you can just wear a goddamn t-shirt. So absolutely take that trade. But he's doing well. My folks are both doing well, which is very thankful. My dad's quite a bit older, actually. He's in his 70s now. So, go, the fact that we live with the times of medical advances. More importantly, if there is a tip I can give, it is regular checkups. Like, holy shit. So many people drop dead because you just don't know, right? Like, because the problem is that shit, I mean, and look at cancer. Like, I won't even go into that because we've got one of our party members going through it, but and a dear friend. But that's why that shit is so insidious, is because it creeps up on you and you don't know until you start feeling real bad. And then it's often, especially with heart stuff, like you just fucking drop dead. It's horrible. And a lot of times you can find problems if you go in for regular screening. So I didn't expect to do a big PSA like this, but especially at a certain age, that shit is just so important and can literally save your life, as well as obviously just staying healthy, right? Like watching your cholesterol is a big part of it, all that shit. I lost a lot of weight a couple years ago because I was blood sugar and stuff wasn't looking too good, and I was just way overweight and just hadn't been paying attention to that kind of shit. And I think you also just get to the age where it's like, oh, I can't just rely on my own youthful testosterone and adrenaline to just keep me healthy and working physical jobs. Like you reach an age where that shit starts catching up to you and you're like, oh, I don't have that anymore. Now I'm just gaining weight and it's just not happening. And like, oh, I gotta actually pay attention to this shit. I can't pound beers left and right like I used to. God, I need to tonight though. Man, that friggin' TCU game. Ripped my heart out. That was a Cinderella story waiting to happen. So upsetting. Bring it all back home. Yeah, not a great year for medical stuff, I guess, but hell, everybody's alive. Gotta take your wins where you can, I think. Where are my Magen? Where my Magen at? I wonder if we need to scale these Magen up at all. I still kind of like using them as shock troopers because they are pretty unique. But I also like using some more creepy creatures. I guess the towers I'm probably gonna run as if they were still like they are in the adventure bundle, but like the streets and stuff, which I need to put some maps together for random encounters and really show off how scary it's getting. But what I'd like to do, let's actually go back to the Necropolis map. Got it early, yeah. Yeah, that's and she caught it I don't know honestly know how early relatively it was caughtable, but I mean to where they immediately put her on chemo. Um, but you know, it's like I said, the bad thing about the big C is usually because people just don't get, because by the time it's like really fucking you up and they go to look at it, everybody's like, holy shit, like this has been bad for a while, and you just wouldn't necessarily know it. So yeah, detection is such a key, and unfortunately we just don't have, you know, the wherewithal to do that. It doesn't help that we don't, you know, the fucking health insurance in the US is uh not great. So people not necessarily encouraged to make the most of that. So I'm thinking what I'd like to do is from the entrance to Ether, maybe even from this causeway here, zoom out a bit. Maybe be able to showcase like the Mythalar going crazy in the middle, have probably some kind of like force field thing around it to where they know they can't reach it yet. In fact, I probably need to be more. I could be really obvious about this. Thinking I could even if I was literally designing it like a video game, I would have like you would clearly see like the Mythalar like from the entrance blocked off to where you can't get it, and then you would see these towers, and then each of these towers would be like firing a laser into the force field as if it were like they were maintaining the force field. And so the obvious answer would be like, oh, we need to go inside all these towers to turn that off. And that actually eliminates the whole Rite of the Octad thing. That just means you need to go into each tower and somehow, you know, push a button proverbially. I shouldn't have gone for that one. I fumbled that one. Is that too dumbing down? Because I'm still confused on where and how the players learn that they need this right. Maybe they need to go walk all the way in up to the Mythalar, which that's not necessarily a bad choice. They could just skip the tower, walk up to the Mythalar, and then maybe there they learn. We just skip down to Y23 real quick. It's been a while since I looked at this chapter, although I'm just now starting to because of the Roll20 conversion. Y23. Ether and Mythalar. 50-foot diameter crystal sphere. That's pretty big. Doesn't actually talk anything about the. It just says to reach it, a force field surrounding the spire of Irolithus. To reach it, a character must first perform the rite of the arcane octad to lower the force field. How do they know that? Doom Tapper shows up when they first arrive. Demi Lich flies down. I'm replacing the Demi Lich, by the way. Feel like I'm either missing something or maybe the campaign's missing something. In where they learn how they actually get here. Yeah, bye Sam. Take care. Oh. Really, they don't make it all the way into the, because they can't make it into the spire yet, right? Ensuring force field surrounds a 1,200-foot obsidian citadel. Creatures can't pass through it, nor can they teleport to any location inside of it. A creature that forms the rite of the arcane octad near the spire can pass through the force field in either direction thereafter. So weirdly, they have, once they have the arcane octad, they can immediately go. They can attune to the Mythalar, but if they do that, as written, the Demi-Lich comes down and fucks with them. Or they can also enter the Spire and then fight the Demi-Lich, which again is as written, which I don't think I'll be using. A Demi-Lich as the boss. Kind of lean towards Elder Brain. See what the whole like brain and jar thing, yeah, that they're doing here. Like, why not use an Elder Brain? Like, literally do like the end of Super Metroid, the Mother Brain. Sounds like a great thing. You can still call it all of this. Again, where do they know how to get into the middle? I could literally replace this so it's not that obvious. Maybe with just a giant shimmering force field imagery. And I could literally draw on this map all these little laser beams, maybe pointing. Well, but one of the towers is destroyed, isn't it? So that doesn't make any sense. I think one of them was literally like in ruins. I'd have to look back and see how the adventure bundle handles that. I think is it this one? Why 11 or 12? I think it's like crumbled down. Or 18 is fallen. One of them is destroyed. Yeah, Tower of Necromancy. It's 18. Remains of a toppled tower with 200 crawling claws. Well, you could replace that with there was a cool undead creature in Radiant Citadel, I think. It was like a bunch of claws put together. Although I think it was a pretty low level. I'd have to see how the adventure bundle handles that one. So that idea doesn't quite track then. I'm gonna need to put some kind of NPC or somehow have Lynn or one of their two villains who's back there. Like somebody's gotta figure it out and tell the players what the fuck they need to be doing here. Besides wandering around. They know they need to get in the middle. I must have missed where they actually learn where they do this. Yeah, it feels weird though that the point is to still get inside that tower. I need to just read this whole freaking chapter again, I guess. Without casting spells. Creature performs all 8 steps of ritual in the correct order outside the spark and pass to the force field thereafter. Hopefully not everybody has to do that. But I guess maybe you would. Yeah, it's pretty confusing on where they actually learn what they have to do. Well, alright, onto the towers. So the Tower of Abjuration. The whole thing here is that there's an anvil that is like kind of sentient, the Anvil of Disjunction, and you have to destroy a magic item, and by doing so, it will reward you with the first line of the Rite of the Octad. Although when you do that, I believe the adventure bundle just says just spawn a Tomb Tapper at them, which hell yeah, I will do that. Otherwise, this one's very much the same as what's written in the book. I'll pretty much keep it pretty close, I think. Roll finding out in Roll20 compared to the book, actually. Yeah. I guess that's the nature of the fact that it's just a small window that you're scrolling through with a million words, and it's just harder to find that information out. And it's tough to decide, you know, on the design standpoint, like where to break up all your different journal entries. Like I've seen some stuff that had literally just every room was its own entry, but that was way overkill because then you're just as lost, I think, in a way. So you can't exactly control F, I don't think, to find stuff very easily. It's kind of tricky. It's a beast, I guess. Let's see, and then we've got... Skipped a couple in here. The prison, which is here. And weirdly, like, how do you decide where the players can go? Like, these aren't really marked on the map at all. So as a DM, I have to, because they're not going to know. They're going to wander around and just look at shit. Maybe I'd have to write things on the map and say, like, prison, you know, tower, arcane, because they wouldn't know what tower it is. Stadium, you know, try and just point, you know, kind of like you would with a, you know, Assassin's Creed game or something where it had, like, points of interest on the map, you know, with, like, exclamation points or question marks or something until you get there. Because otherwise, you're just looking at the map art, going, I don't know what's I can interact with or what's just background art. We obviously know the information, but the players are not going to. I think I'm going to have to point out certain areas of interest, which also allows me, the DM, if I want to skip certain areas, I just won't, you know, annotate those on the map, and then nobody's going to care. It's a weird one. There's a doppelganger in the prison. Somehow has been in a state of suspended animation. Ron murdered another East sage in the city, stole his identity, and tried to infiltrate the Spire of Arlothus. Caught in prison. The prison warden and the wizard was interested in studying the doppelganger. Wizard made Zerfon acquiesce to a series of experiments between cast sequester spells and the doppelganger is a question. Okay. I guess it can weirdly speak Larosa. So is this supposed to be your Orvex? Doppelganger plays the part of a low-born Netherese manservant who was sent to the prison by his master Arlothus for disobedience. Without going into much details, often alludes to horrible magical experiments performed on prisoners by the wizard who ran the prison. Who's literally 2,000 years old but has been suspended animation, and apparently can just speak common like no problem. That seems odd. Doppelganger has no ill intentions toward the characters, but places self-preservation above all else. Weird character. Okay, this is the important one. The doppelganger knows that to bypass the force field around the Spire of Arlothus, one must perform the 8 steps to the right of the arcane octet outside the spire. Fucking, Omu also had a doppelganger, a helpful doppelganger. God. Maybe it's my fault for running Tomb first. I did mention at the very, you can go back and watch the very beginning of like my pre-campaign crafting streams, and I remember being worried, or maybe even far back as when I was selecting this campaign, I remember being worried going, hey, we just played Into Annihilation, which had a remote, dangerous area with a lost city, and now Rime is a remote, dangerous area with a lost city. And here we are. Lead the party each of these towers. Damn it, he's such an important NPC. And this is literally like the Orvex of this area. He knows all the information. Why would the players know to go to this prison? Why would they randomly decide to... Well, not randomly, I guess that's probably a good idea, is to just... You just see a normal person in suspended animation, you can turn it off, and then they're just a friendly person who can help you with everything. And they're a doppelganger for almost no real reason. I mean, it doesn't seem to really play in... It's weird. But I use a doppelganger in Omu. No, they're very creepy looking. Devious shapeshifters. Apparently the doppelgangers 2,000 years ago. Yeah, signposts. Which chapter? Ranger Sierra, we are in chapter 7. We're at the very end of this campaign. So my players are in the middle of the Caves of Hunger in chapter 6, but I think, gotten enough ahead of them where there's not much else I can talk about until they start doing different things, I guess. So I'm kind of jumping ahead to chapter 7 and re-familiarizing myself with how this chapter works. Which I'm having to change some things because my players will be higher level. Obviously, I've had more different story things happen. The main thing being the Mythalar is active, but it's sputtering. And Aurel originally wanted to keep everything tapped down and hidden, but now she's saying, okay, you guys are strong enough, go in there and shut this thing down because it's a danger. However, her other reason is, go in there and unlock it, and because Aurel actually still is kind of afraid of this place. It's where she was created, it's where she sucked all her power from, but she actually has kind of a fear. And then the players have been sent here, but it might be that she can come in and hopefully, reappear as a proper boss fight. I would love to create an end game scenario after the players have dealt with, the Elder Brain, hopefully, and then they're down there ready to shut off the Mythalar, and then Aurel shows up and wanting to take the rest of it into herself and become even more powerful and godlike. The players can throw it out with another big battle, and then maybe there's a final choice where one of the party members can choose to attune to the Mythalar, and therefore they actually can ascend into godhood, and take some of that power into themselves, but maybe they have to roll like checks or else they get killed. I could do some really cool shit with that for a cool ending. Make that be the whole idea. And then, with their power, hopefully they can turn off the Everlasting Night. The doppelganger is in the prison as written. Yes, went off on a little bit of a rant there. As written, the doppelganger is in the prison, which is right here, which is decently near the beginning. But again, the players would not know to go here or check this out unless I, put a yellow exclamation point above it. And they get in there and they can free the doppelganger and then talk to it, and it's got all the information. I have to sneeze. Oh my goodness, sorry. It happened during the Monday update too. I can do okay, but just allergies and shit is killing me right now. We're basically in false spring here in Texas, whereas I think it's literally going to hit 80 this week. 80 degrees. And allergies are back with a vengeance. But there does need to be an NPC, or if not an NPC, then some equivalent of a journal entry or something where the players know what they need to do. Because otherwise you're just aimless. You're wandering around the city just fighting shit, wondering like, okay, how do we get into this force field that we can't get into? One thing I mentioned the fact that we could do, so I'm tempted to just skip the prison completely because I'm really not a fan of this random ass doppelganger with all this information. It feels too like this place should be more alien and creepy than that. Yeah, so I'm tempted to skip that. What I could do instead of the more obvious, like, oh, laser beams from the tower shooting and powering the force field, you could have the force field maybe showing the symbols of all the towers on it in a very obvious way, and then the players, in fact, that you can actually see on this map, there's at least some of the symbols are present on the map, and they're kind of color coded a little bit. At least those two are pretty prominent. I don't know about the others, because unfortunately I think they're all kind of in a circle. Oh, that one a little bit. That's killing me. I just can't go outside. I used to have no allergies too, and of course I just get older. But I could just have the symbols of the towers, and then the players can very obviously see the symbols, or the symbols on the force field and the symbols on the tower, and maybe they could put 2 and 2 together there. And then if nobody thinks of it, then I've got all these NPCs with the party that can help, nudge them in the right direction about, okay, our goal is to get here and unlock this. In order to do that, we think we need to go to all these towers that have these matching symbols. And then all these towers are like mini dungeons with their own little things going on, essentially. So bare minimum, and in Omu, we didn't end up running all of the shrines, if you recall. In fact, I think Omu did a cool job with that. There was another faction getting the shrines done, and I could do the same thing here, where I could have my villain group split off. I forgot their names. Baelish Gaunt and Neslantimir, have them split off and go and do like 1 or 2 towers that I don't feel like doing. I could almost do the same thing I did in Omu, which was actually written in that adventure book, which it just suggests, hey, because there were 9 of them, I think, and there's 8 here. I think the players ended up doing, I want to say 5 of the Omu shrines, if I recall correctly. So maybe they'd only have to do, a couple of them here and let the villains take the rest, and then maybe they can all meet up. And that's a good way of getting, the villain, even though I got them out of the Caves of Hunger just by having them be invisible behind them at some point, I guess. Which I could have them help get them out of the fray situation right now, depending on the spells that they've got. That would be an easy way. If the players are really just not coming up with any plans, I could have Baelish and Nash show up and be like, look, we've got some blah 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 spell we can do to just end this situation. It was kind of fun hearing them deliberate at the end of the session last time, though. A clue about the right in there. Maybe there's not a whole lot of great chunks left on their way, I think. Most of the chunks were actually in the early part of the dungeon. The next major chunks are ironically in the southwest corner, which is the least likely the players are going to go and interact with. That's not a bad idea, but I don't have an obvious pick for that. Y6 is the Spire entrant, which is actually this cool looking giant like tendril thing. The Spire is surrounded by a force field that also encompasses this area. So this and the Mythalar. So ideally, I need to actually block this whole section out of the map, don't I? Maybe I can find a translucent magic bubble image to put over this and be a very obvious like Zelda-ass dungeon design and be like, hey, here's what you need to get to, but you can't get to it yet. Your goal is to solve these other things first, and that will allow you to get here. But also put the same bubble over here, maybe? Because what I'd like to do is have the players go here and not here. For those of you listening, I'm pointing to the Y6 entrance and not the Y23, which is the actual Mythalar. The Mythalar should literally be the very last thing they do because that should be the site of the big climax. After they've dealt with this dungeon in a dungeon, which is going to be my Elder Brain dungeon up here. So ideally, I'd want them to actually... So actually, the Rite of the Octad is going to get them into Y6 and not Y23. Yeah, and this... An arching strut of dark stone rises from this ruined district to a junction high up on the central spire. A gate engraved with arcane sigils is set into the base of the strut. You could literally have the 8 symbols on there. Yep, and it even says, see, I'm right there with you. Book. A character who succeeds on a DC 10 Arcana check recognizes the sigils on the gate as ancient symbols representing the 8 schools of magic. Any creature that enters this elevator is magically levitated to the spire entrance at Area 19A. Okay. So somehow I need to label this, but make it so that it's impossible to get in here. Label this, and this is where you can go and realize, oh, this is shut and locked and barred, but it's got the symbols that match these towers. So maybe that would be enough. Or I could literally just put fucking instructions on the gate itself. You know, written in that ancient language, but I think it's a Draconic script, so it's translatable. Could use the Mage and Mummy and the Gold Mask to do that. Yeah, maybe. I don't have that character talking, but that character does lead them to the library. I might have one of the... I might turn that Arcanoloth or somebody. Maybe that one might know more. I think that's supposed to be here in Y9. But I could just have the instructions on this spine. I could just spell out Spire entrance here. And then, that's pretty close to the entrance. So the players would hopefully mosey over there, check that out. And I can literally have it be a pretty dumbed down script that just says, to enter, one must follow the rite of the Arcane Octad. And then have those symbols printed. And maybe even be obvious about it. Have literally like the towers with the symbols printed or something. I don't know, but... what I'd probably do is have the towers, and if they don't get it, then have one of my NPCs, hopefully Valen survives, and speak up about like, hey, these match the towers that we saw, and then at that point I can put these towers, have them on the GM layer with the names on them, and actually put them on the token layer and be like, all right, here's all your towers that you can do, and then we can have the players just decide, do you want to do them all, or do you want to tell, your villain groups can certainly get some of them done. You can pool your information together and do them all. And that's how you unlock it. Kind of skipping the tower so we can do more of the non-tower stuff. House of the Arcane is Y8. That's over here, the Grand Academy. Nothing can be salvaged from the study halls and the towers. The auditorium holds something of interest. Each one in the auditorium depicts a wizard casting a spell from the 8 schools of magic. There's a goblet embedded with 8 colored crystals represent the 8 schools of magic. Liquid inside tastes like hot water. Yum. Humanoid that drinks from the goblet gains a supernatural charm. Well, D8 consult the magic goblets table to determine what charm was bestowed. Didn't they just get a charm from eating the pears before they made it in here? Those purple pears? Each charm also has a secret magical effect that triggers when the charm's benefit expires. Do not reveal the secret to a player before the effect occurs. That's fun. I think they're all good, though. Yeah, I'll get to drink once from it. That's just a straight-up treasure. That's not guarded at all. Seems like a wasted opportunity. Obviously, I would be using... and hopefully I can come up with 1 or 2 street-type maps that I can use to repeat and include some pretty fun random encounters, because this is obviously opportunities to use all those. You don't want to go too crazy, but I feel like more so than Omu, this would be a very dangerous place to wander around at, and plus our heroes are much higher level than Omu. As written, the encounters, Tomb Tapper is good, but kind of a boring enemy. I think once you've seen it the first time, it's freaky, but it's just a big brute that can be, frankly, like, CC'd pretty easily. If I throw 2 of them at the players, it's basically like fighting like 2 giants. 2 giants with blind sight. An army of Nothics would be pretty effective. We just fought one in the Caves of Hunger. We are going to fight one in the Caves of Hunger. Have our Althus show up. Spitting Mimics could be fun. Definitely take advantage of all the living spells, which are awesome. There's a Big Beast Hand. There's like a Sword of Disasters. All these kind of spell things that can be popping up. What a pain in the ass this thing is. And then I will be looking at a lot of Far Realm type creatures that I can take advantage of. A lot of creepy stuff. Tentacles coming out of the ceiling. You know, really take advantage of the fact that there's these rips in space-time letting through the Far Realm, and it's because the Mythalar isn't just sitting there waiting to be, you know, an energy source to be tapped. It's more exciting than that. It's literally like sputtering and creating all these rips and tears and monstrous creatures. Hopefully we'll be able to tease that with that thing in the ice as some of it, and maybe that's also been, it's been warping all these, you know, creatures and creating these various portals where it's just nasty things can kind of claw their way in, and maybe start some of the nastier stuff, you know, not right off the bat necessarily, you know, in terms of like giant tentacles coming out of the ceiling or something, or out of the floor, but certainly that being the idea. Now you've turned watching you do all the design work WotC should have done into entertaining shows of the rest of us struggling TMs. Thanks. Sorry for having you. No, that's good to hear. Thank you. That's very kind. Yeah, a lot of the 5e campaigns, I think we all agree, there's a lot of good ideas in there, but for the company that's supposed to be like the preeminent, like, hey, you should be getting the best stuff here, a lot of it is pretty disappointing, which is a bummer. And I feel like they've almost peaked already, right? Like Curse of Strahd was good. Prince of the Apocalypse didn't have the best story, but at least had some really good dungeons and thematic enemies, just a lot of good dungeon crawling. You know, Storm Kings was problematic, but at least just gave you the whole Sword Coast. Tomb of Annihilation, I think, was actually really solid, probably one of their best adventures, and they've had some, I think, missteps with some folks like Dragon Heist, but I didn't care for it. Descent into Avernus had major problems with it. I will say, though, Ranger Sierra, I have read Dragonlance, and I'm generally pretty positive about it. I'm pretty surprised. My review is still forthcoming. I've just got so many sponsored reviews I've had to get through before I can cover it, but I did actually read the whole thing, and I've been pretty positive about it largely. I enjoy the story. I think it's got a good mixture of it's a little bit excessively linear and story heavy and RP heavy throughout the first like tier of play, to where the players are it's almost very Tyranny of Dragons, where they're just kind of reacting to things one at a time. They don't have a lot of real choices to make. That kind of irked me. But then once they get to like tier 2, they get to a chapter and it actually opens up into a cool like miniature hex crawl, and they've got all this whole open area to explore and all these multiple things to do, and like each thing leads to other things. It's like just really good open world design. So I was very impressed with that. And then it leads to, stay with me now, a Lost City, which is also a fun, I do like their Lost Cities a lot. I think 5e's done some fun stuff with that. But it's fun, and it leads to a really, really fun climax at the end. What it doesn't do is necessarily do a great showcase of the Dragonlance setting. What it does do is showcase a pretty good adventure story that still has the backdrop of war. And in my Monday update, I also talked about how it kind of reminded me of the Indiana Jones movies like that, because those are obviously very fun, pulpy adventure movies that a lot of people, I think, would like to think of their D&D games as being, while also still taking place during World War II. And in this case, it's like the beginning of the War of the Lance. So you've definitely got this whole like enemy army thing and a lot of these big fantastic battles, and you feel like you're part of something big going on in the world. So I'm honestly pretty positive about Dragonlance, which is great because I feel like they've had in 5e campaigns probably as many hits as misses in my book. I've liked the anthology stuff they've done generally, but those are hard to build a campaign out of. And I haven't really found myself actually using them too much. Unfortunately, I tend to like just running these campaigns in remote areas. Yeah, they do like their lost cities, but you know what? I like them too. And especially if I end up running Dragonlance, which I may very well do, then I'll be fucking 3 for 3 in a row with utilizing the lost city trope. But hot damn, if it's not just a classic, good adventure ass idea. I mean, I think every Uncharted game ends with a goddamn lost city. Like, it just works. It's fun. And it's at least Tomb of Annihilation didn't end with a lost city, and to be fair, Dragonlance doesn't actually end with the lost city either. It's just it's similar to Tomb of Annihilation, where the lost city kind of leads towards the finale, although Dragonlance does a more cooler it feels just very awesome with what they do. I won't spoil things on there. I'll save that for the review, but I really like the way it ended. It has like multiple big boss fights and stuff, which is pretty cool. All right, I think I'm pretty sure I've gone over an hour for this crafting Icewind Dale, so you got some bonus time there. I realized I had set a later time to start, and then I still went earlier, and yeah, I needed to take my mind off of the horrible trouncing that my TCU frogs received tonight, but now I feel better having chatted with all of you and thinking about D&D, and gosh, it's crazy to think in a couple months we'll be at 2 years for Rime, and I think we'll finally be wrapping stuff up. But as of right now, I think we still have several sessions left in the Caves of Hunger, and then probably a good much of content. I mean, I'd have to go back and look how much. I think we were 7 or 8 sessions in Omu, and I would imagine it's going to take pretty close to that here, and then we have this final dungeon area. So I don't know how much time we have left in Rime of the Frostmaiden, even though we are heading towards the end game, but I think just given our short sessions too, I think we've got plenty of content left before I have to start talking about what's coming next. All right, thank you all for joining me for the Crafting Icewind Dale. If you enjoy the content, do check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shoutouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, William, Brandon, Genocider, David, Eclectic Roleplayer, Roll, Christopher, Brian, William, David, Corey, Go at 1337, Matthew, Big Nut, John, Infernus, Chris, Scott, and Gene. Shout out to new patron Gene. And gold patrons, RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Marcus, Dead Lizard, Lounge, Sam, Lumpy Spuds, Jerome, Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, Scott, Refus, Carolyn, and William. Thank you all very much for your support. If you are a Platinum patron that has signed up for a game, I will see you on Thursday night. But for all of you, I will see you earlier Thursday, my time anyway, for that crafting. Have a good one. Hey, Bo, GG, man. GG to the dogs. Holy crap. That's all I will say. Well, you got a killer team, and y'all will be awesome next year, too.